Hi, everybody. This is Christopher Phillips, fearless founder of the nonprofit democracycafe.org, known mostly for our global grassroots Socrates Cafe initiative, now in its 28th year. Uh, my guest on our Socrates Cafe YouTube channel today is a return guest, a dear friend of our nonprofit, Dr. Robert Carter. Rob, you have you have so many. Let me put it this way. If there was the word overachiever in the dictionary, they shouldn't put you because you outdo all the other overachievers I've ever known. People have called me that, and I say, no, no, you don't know Dr. Rob Carter. So, but welcome back to our program.
Thank you, Chris. It's always a pleasure, and I definitely don't see myself as an overachiever.
That's
You
amazing.
know, at times, it's hard for me not if I come up with an idea, since I've figured out that I can actually follow through with stuff, I become myopic, right? I still do the other things I need to get done, but
Mhm.
I find a way, to get things done. So as a
Yeah.
result, having a wandering mind, I tend to find ways to get things done that I feel like need to be done. And so I'm very, very thankful to have that gift. And definitely, I not many people know this, but my doctor when I was a kid, his name was Dr. Uncle, if you can imagine, in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And he um, diagnosed me early on with a potential hyperactive. I was,
Wow.
ADHD.
Wow.
And so my mother never put me on medication. And I feel like, what maybe a lot of kids and a lot of even adults are, if they can channel that energy, to me, having, a lot of energy active, right? Hyperactive is just you got a lot of energy in the body and you got to figure
Right.
out some way to channel it, right?
Right.
And and attention deficit means that you have a lot of
Yeah.
ability to pay attention. It's
Yeah.
just that you don't have
Right.
anything that is capturing your attention
Yeah.
enough to focus on it. But once you take that energy, that hyperactive energy, and something that you're interested in, and you can channel those towards, you can get a lot done. So I think that I'm first of all, I'm thankful to my mom for not putting me on any type of medication to inhibit that process.
Yeah.
And I'm also very thankful that over time I've been able to really channel that energy. And I,
Mhm.
I would say I think those qualities have allowed me to hyper focus to actually get something done.
Mhm.
So this book, Bipartisan Jesus, I was
Yeah.
able to do it in a record amount of time, I would
Well,
say.
you did it so well is what amazes me. The writing is crisp and clear, well organized. You support your views so well, and I'm very anxious. I'm going to have to tell you though, Rob. So I was blessed to get to know you when I was facilitating Socrates Cafes at program management training program, professional management training at Defense Acquisition University at Fort Belvoir. How long ago was that?
That was 2016.
So that was 8 years. And
Yeah, so
so
8 years ago.
and you wrote just this beautiful book that became an international bestseller, The Morning Mind, Use Your Brain to Master Your Day and Supercharge Your Life. You recently came out with The Heart and Soul of Food. Um, you've done so many things that most military officers, you're the highest ranking, you're becoming chief of staff at Fort Detrick, really don't have the time for. But here's the thing. You have attention surplus order. That's what I would diagnose you. You have attention surplus order. No disorder. Forget all about that.
Yeah.
Forget deficit. You have this way. I get emails from text from you sometimes at 1 in the morning. Chris, I have this idea. And I'm like, it's brilliant. You know, it's just brilliant. And so this one I encouraged you to get with quickly because the presidential election is just about exactly 2 months away. And I personally think that this book is what the US world, and I think actually the world at large sees now. It's entitled The Bipartisan Jesus, His timeless teachings will restore America. Reading your book myself, as someone who is, I'm spiritual. I mean, my background, you don't know this. So my dad was Greek. My late father was Greek Orthodox. My mother, when she was born and raised in a coal mining camp, was raised in the Jehovah's Witness faith. She left that and became Methodist. So, and then I sort of went my own way and created my own kind of religion, pulling this and that. I'm not atheist. I don't, but I'm not. I don't belong to any specific faith. And so your book, even though it's called The Bipartisan Jesus, I didn't take it to mean, oh well, it's Democrats, Republicans. No, I didn't take it in that bifurcated way. I just took it to mean Jesus can show any of us, whether we're atheist, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, whether we're evangelical, whether we're Episcopalian, Methodist, there's things that he can show us in this time of deep, deep polarization to bridge the differences in a loving way.
Yes, I 100% agree. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this. So, Chris, you're probably aware of this, that I have taught at Christian schools in public health. And the school, the public health program, one of the principal the program learning objectives is looking at public health from a Christian worldview. And as you can imagine, every student in that course, in that class, in that program, they're not Christians. They're Hindus, they're Muslim, they're atheists, they're agnostic, like yourself, without a particular faith or religion or denomination within Christianity, a wide variety of folks, right? And although they're attending a university that teaches from a Christian worldview, that's something I talk with the students a lot about, is that, we're teaching you, mainly we're studying the wisdom, right? So we could be studying the wisdom of any, great historical leader or even president. Like you're focused on Socrates. So we can learn a lot, right? And so Jesus, particular, is a historical figure for Christians. It's a different context, even within Christianity. There's different ways that Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, Jehovah Witness, Mormons, the varies, but they're all Christians. But the way they look at and they interpret the work of Jesus Christ is different. Okay. But if you look at it, it's really about the wisdom, the moral clarity that you get,
Mhm.
and Jewish Americans, right? And so we talk about ourselves as being a Judeo-Christian nation. And I look at that basically as a country, a new nation, okay, at least, new to the people that came after the people that are already here, but the newly arriving masses said, hey, we're seeking religious freedom. We're seeking a place where, you know, we can exist as a group of people and respect each other and uphold justice, morality, governance, right? Separation of church and state. All of those things that allowed the people, early Americans, to get here and establish a political landscape that was based in social justice, that was based in wisdom, and based on lessons learned of things that didn't go well in other places.
Right.
And so
Beautifully
I
put.
think that's critical, right? And then also I think, now move forward, 400 years, it's not like we haven't had periods in history of political divide, but we're experiencing right now, our generation at this moment. And so I have discussions with friends that are Republican, friends that are Democrat. As a military officer, I'm naturally bipartisan and apolitical. And so this wasn't written to be a political story or to justify one or the other. It was just really to say, hey, look, we're a Judeo-Christian nation, and some people think, well, oh, Republicans are more Christian than Democrats, and vice versa, and and this backing. But the reality is
Mm,
that someone's political party, whether it's the Republican, Democrat, Independent,
right.
whatever, Green Party, whatever, or
Mm,
no party, the end of the day, it's completely separate, from their relationship with God, Jesus, whatever religion they belong to. Is a separate
right.
entity. And in
Yes.
fact, I wanted to share a statistic with you, and then I'll let you ask the next question. Is I looked and I said, okay, are Christians, is there truly a big difference between the main two parties, Democrats and Republicans, with the percentage of Republicans that are identify as Christian? Well, so it's roughly like 75% of Republicans identify as Christians, and evangelical, mainstream Protestants, and Catholics are the majority of those. Democrats, approximately 65%, identify as Christian, and the party tends to have generally a more religious,
Mm-hmm.
diverse membership.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning immigrants that are coming from like other parts of the country um, tend to affiliate initially, at least, with the Democratic Party. Maybe they'll choose something else later, but
Mm,
just the Democratic Party tends to be attract more because of their focus on a lot of times social programs, not
right.
socialism, but social programs. Some of your immigrants. So, but but if you think about it, even then, there's only a 10% difference.
Mm,
Probably not even statistically significant difference in the percentage. But if you talk to some folks, they would say, "Oh yeah, the Democrats are not, not
right.
Christians, or the Republicans are too Christian."
Right.
But the reality is that people, political party doesn't dictate
Right.
their relationship with Jesus Christ or
Right.
following the principles of Jesus
Exactly.
Christ.
Well, I think your book brings us back to our founding principles. I mean, these were religious people. Jefferson was a deist, you know. These were people who actually were, there was a plurality of religious Christian practices even at our nation's founding. And your book seems to me to also remind us of who we are. Like, okay, you start out your book with this, love thy neighbor as thyself. Uh, uh, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God and love thy neighbor as thyself. And I've tried, whether you're a believer or not, that is a more vital practice than ever right now. You might hate somebody's view on gun control. You might hate somebody's view on abortion. But if you hate that person just because of their belief, then what's happened to all the democracies in the past, Athenian polis, Roman Republic, is going to happen to us again. But your book shows the way out of that morass.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that. And you think about like I opened up as well. I appreciate, your comments there. I opened up really saying, okay, let's look at the Ten Commandments, right? So there's
Mm,
four of the commandments that's really about relationship with God. So if someone says, well, I don't believe in God, that's fine. But
mhm,
if you look at there's six more commandments that I don't think most people would disagree with. And honor thy mother and father, right? So as a parent, that's very important for me. First of all, that I show my daughter that I honor my mother and father, because that what it has done, what that it's not about me, but it helps her establish that your parents are actually important,
mhm,
and thou shalt not murder. I don't know anybody personally that, other than some really deranged person, that thinks that murdering innocent people is a good
mhm,
idea. In fact, we highly frowned on it. Republicans frown on it, Democrats frown on it, all nationalities, all people globally
mhm,
generally do not like say, hey, like let's go kill some people, right? Some murder and adultery. I don't know many people that really want to be with somebody that's sleeping with their partner, wife, husband, right? That's not something that people want to be around somebody that's actively trying to do that, right? Thou
mhm,
shalt not steal. Many parts of the world, you will get your head whacked. So stealing, generally, you don't want to be around, people around that's trying to steal your stuff. Okay. And then and you already pointed this one out. Love thy neighbor, right? You want to be around a community of people that love, respect each other, right? Because
Right.
that's a sense of safety and community. And so there's just a small sprinkling of that. The reality is that, while those are, sort of the Christian Ten Commandments, the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that, and if you go even into the relationship with God, those actually are consistent, with other religions as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, slightly different interpretation, slightly
Right.
different context. So that's kind of where I started off,
Right.
and then if you get into other aspects, of Christian teaching, it's the majority of it really is, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
is taking care of other people,
Yes.
taking care of the people that are poor, taking care of people that can't take care of themselves. Why? Because during that period of time, even today, none of us know when we will change states. Today, I could be a millionaire. Tomorrow, I could be poor, right?
You
I
need
could
to
be
invest with
healthy
me, Rob.
today. Yes. Today, I could be healthy. Tomorrow, I could be
Yeah.
sick, right?
Right.
And if the poor and the sick happen at the same time, I need some help, Chris.
Yes.
And so,
So
but
here's
and
that
so,
thing.
yes,
We got to cultivate our democratic garden, which
yeah,
is all about Matthew 22:37-29, 39. Love thy neighbor as thyself, as yourself.
yes.
And your book seems to me to show us the way. I emerged from reading your book. It's slender, every word counts, feeling a sense of hope and possibility, and that I hadn't felt in quite a long time about our nation's democracy.
Yes. No, I appreciate it. And sometimes I see us now where we often put our own, which is really not how the world survived. Generally, like, the world has survived and prospered when people basically will work together. We often talk about it takes a village, right? But a village that is divided, the only thing that does produce is, like, kids that are conflicted and hate each other, Hatfields and McCoys, right? And so again, this book really is out there really looking at the three main things that I hope people take away if they're curious enough to pick it up. I think the cover is really attractive,
It's
and the
amazing.
content is even more attractive. But what I want people to really take away is sort of three main points, and that is really fostering unity. Okay, looking at common good, working across party lines, across people lines,
Mm.
and then really emphasizing common values, right?
Hmm.
And so I have differences with my family. I have differences with friends. That's fine. We're supposed to, but at the same time, if you focus on what the common ground, right?
Hmm.
Common ground, then what you find is a lot love, compassion, justice, and integrity. If you
Right.
focus on what's different, right, was not common, then you actually end up killing each other, or something like that. And then prioritizing people over politics. Unfortunately, I've heard a number of people, from the local to the federal level, state, national level, talk about prioritizing, politics over people. How That's strange to me.
Mm.
I mean, because what are politics, right? It's made up of people, and so it's like, it basically is prioritizing people's weaknesses over themselves, right? So, hey, look,
Right.
I'm gonna find one thing that you're that I think you're very compassionate about, preach it, and I'm gonna try and mind control. So you say I'm very passionate about something, then I'm going to basically make sure that I politicize that thing so that you focus on that thing over your neighbor, over justice, over what's common good for the nation. And it becomes a big distraction and something
Yes.
I think that if we're not careful, we could find ourselves where the Romans were and find
Got to have a
out,
sense of
yeah,
history. You have to
yeah,
understand the pernicious patterns that are repeating themselves now, so you don't repeat them.
exactly.
Yeah. So Rob, I was spent most of my growing up years in Southeast Virginia, Newport News, in the height of the bus desegregation era. It's so cool in some respects to go to our high school reunions, friends. Newport News is a sprawling, rather faceless city, east side, west side, but we bridge those differences in many ways. I was actually appreciative in so many ways for desegregation, and it's so fun to still have friendships. But what I've seen in the last 6 years, friends of mine, 3 years I'll be having my 50th reunion. People who've been friends for half a century have unfriended each other on Facebook over disagreements over our former president and current president, over disagreements on abortion. I would say to them, well, how come you're not friends with X and Y and Z anymore? Oh, well, we just couldn't bridge our differences over abortion. That was the latest one I got. Been friends for over 50 years, since middle school. Your book seems to me to remind us, uh, so we find a view hateful. We should love them maybe even more, instead of taking that, I hate their view, so I hate them. These are people with a history. So that's
Yes.
what I take away from your book.
Yeah, and think about this, right? You know, one of the things that we talk about and we teach our kids is, basically, you know, differences are complementary, right? So because it teaches us something, teaches us
Mhm.
compassion, teaches us a lot of things. And so, like, you got two friends, right? In there, one is pro-life, one pro-choice. They've been friends for 40 years. All of a sudden now they hate the other person but the person that you loved, you played golf with, you had dinner, you shared, you know, um, events with them, your kids grew up together. All of a sudden you hate them, but they've had the same political views the whole time. They've probably been in the same political party. And I think part of it is that's the politicization of politics. And because what happens is people become inundated with, disinformation, misinformation, and sound bites, and they become brainwashed. And that's why you got to
Mhm.
really, and that's in the morning mind we talk about, you got to really evaluate what you put in your head,
Mhm.
right? And so everything I write about, while it's different topics, is all really about self-help and self-development
Mhm.
and maximizing your own
Yes.
potential. And one of the
Yeah.
ways you can guarantee not to maximize your full potential is picking and choosing your friends based on, like they have exactly and they think the same way about you, about how you see the world.
Mhm.
And that's the worst way to actually grow. Because
Yes.
it's of no value. Everything I've learned, I talk about this. So I grew up basically in South Louisiana, where you had Protestants and Catholics, and they were kind of like different in a lot of ways, and say, "Oh, those are the Catholics." But I had an opportunity. I went to mass every week with one of our neighbors, my grandmother's neighbors, who was Catholic. My grandmother had been Catholic, but married my grandfather, who was Baptist, and went to Baptist church on Sunday. I went to mass with Ms. Ruggiero during the week,
Right.
and so, and I walked away saying, other than like the services, I really enjoyed the Catholic services because they were a lot shorter. The Baptist service, they seemed to go on and on, especially in the South. We needed an intermission. It was so long, right? I was starving, a lot of times, depending on the church. Catholic, 45 minutes, boom, multiple options during the week to go to mass. It's
Right.
like, wow, this is great, man. And and then, but other than that, generally I'm like, man, these people, it's generally like, the same thing is happening. One has a little bit more organization and time structure, but at the end of the day, they both said great things about Jesus.
Yes.
Great things. And somebody could have been in there as a Muslim or whatever. If they just listen, you know, um, there was like, man, everything they were talking about was things that they were trying to make you a better person,
Mm.
so that you could love thy neighbor, love thyself, honor thy mother and father. These
Yes.
fundamental principles of life,
Your book
and
teases that out, and it makes me, it just, I think your book is heart-shaped.
yeah.
It really, Rob, we have a little bit over 2 minutes left. Can I just read the last two paragraphs of your book?
Okay. Yeah.
To my, the vision of a future where every child is valued and supported is one that resonates deeply with the teachings of Jesus. It is a vision that calls us to action, challenging us to build a society that reflects the values of justice, compassion, and love. By drawing on these teachings, we can move beyond the limitations of our current political discourse and work towards a more inclusive, equitable, and caring society. The path forward requires a collective effort, a commitment to putting the needs of the most vulnerable at the center of our policies and practices. This involves not only rethinking our approach to governance and social services, but also fostering a culture of empathy, respect, and shared responsibility. By doing so, we honor the teachings of Jesus and contribute to the creation of a society that truly reflects the principles of love and justice. As we embark on this journey, let us do so with hope and purpose, confident in our ability to create a better future for all America's children. I'm like, whoa. And because that's what you do is you present a forward-looking vision that helps us remember whether you and I brought children into the world,
Right.
but we're all our brothers and sisters keeper, emphatically, most of all, our children's keeper, whether they're ours or other people's. And so we want the best for them. Yes, we'll have different notions of justice and fairness, but nonetheless, we operate from that page and platform. We can't help but go wrong. Cannot go wrong.
Exactly.